Hello and welcome. I have not set foot in Britain since the year Tony Blair won his second term and have been a British non-resident since 1978. However, back then, in 2001, the most divisive topic back then was David Beckham's haircut. I traded drizzle for monsoons, the M25 for dirt tracks, and eventually, after years working abroad and after many years living and raising a family near Pattaya, a decade in Phuket, and finally in retirement, a wooden house on stilts in Isaan. However, from this rather comfortable distance, I have watched the mother country have what I can only describe as a prolonged, very public nervous breakdown. The question is, why on earth did everyone stop talking and start screaming? You see, from my hammock here in Isaan, with only the geckos from company, Britain looks different. It is like watching a family argument through a very dirty window. You cannot hear the specific words, but you can tell it has all gone a bit pear-shaped. The last time I was there, a disagreement was something you had about whether the number 42 bus was late or if your neighbour's tree was blocking your sun. You would have a moan, maybe write a tersely worded letter to the parish council, and then you would go to the pub and forget about it. The fundamental idea that the other person was a decent sort deep down remained intact. Then came the big one, the Brexit referendum. Now, I am not here to refight that battle. Good heavens, no. The tamarind juice I drink is sour enough without adding that. Nevertheless, what that vote did was take all the little cracks that were always there, the class thing, the north-south thing, the haves and have-nots, and pour a great bucket of political cement into them. It set hard. Suddenly you were not just someone who voted differently, you were a traitor or a racist, a Ramona or a gammon. It became tribal. On top of that, not in a fun football match kind of way, in a we do not speak to Auntie Margaret anymore kind of way. They have even got a posh term for it, effective polarization. It is a fancy way of saying you have decided your cousin Keith is morally bankrupt because he has a different opinion on Brussels bureaucracy. It reminds me of the time my wife bought a new spirit house for the garden. For weeks, all the neighbours had an opinion. Too big, too small, facing the wrong way. I thought it was all going to kick off. Nevertheless, you know what they did? They all came round, brought food, argued for 3 hours, drank a lot of Lao Cow, and by the end of it, they had all helped me position it. The problem was not solved, but the air was cleared. From what I see, Britain forgot how to share the Lao Cow. Everyone just stayed in his or her own garden, shouting over the fence. Furthermore, the fences got higher. This brings me to the other great divider, the sheer eye-watering cost of, well, everything. When I left, a young couple could still dream of a semi with a patch of lawn. Now, from what I read, that dream has been replaced by the reality of renting a shoebox and using an avocado as a pension plan. There is a grand canyon now between those who got on the property ladder and those watching the ladder being pulled up into the sky. It has created a generational Cold War. The youngsters think the oldies had it easy and pulled the drawbridge up after them. The oldies think the youngsters spend all their money on avocado toast and foreign holidays. Neither is entirely right, but my word, it is a fertile ground for resentment, which is where the third culprit slinks in, looking terribly pleased with itself, the internet. When I first left the UK back in 1977, you got your news from the telly or a newspaper. You might not like what you read, but at least everyone was roughly looking at the same page. Now, good grief, it is as if everyone has his or her own personal news crier who only tells him or her what he or she wants to hear. These algorithm things sounds like a painful medical condition. They seal you in a bubble. If you think Brexit was a grand idea, your phone will show you 1,000 reasons why you are a genius. If you think it was a folly, it will show you 1,000 reasons why the other side are idiots. You are never challenged. You are just confirmed. It is like only ever eating sugar. It feels nice at first, but it rots your teeth. In this case, it has rotted the national capacity for a sensible chat. Therefore, have you got the Brexit split, the money split, the techie split, or the too many immigrants split, all swirling around together like a perfect storm over the English Channel? It is not just one thing, it is a recipe, and frankly, it looks exhausting. However, here is the twist, the thing I have realised from my safe distance. I miss the old arguments, the gentle, moaning, fundamentally united disagreement that characterised the Britain I knew. The shared misery of train cancellation, the communal sigh at a summer rainstorm, the unspoken agreement that despite it all, we were all in it together. That, I fear, is what has been lost. Not a political consensus, but a social one. So my advice from the rice paddy, it is terribly simple. Maybe just for a day, everyone should put his or her phones down and go to the pub. Buy someone you disagree with a pint. Then, instead of talking about Europe or the economy, have a bloody good moan about the weather. You might find you still have more in common than you think. Right, I've rambled on long enough. The sun is going down and my juice needs refreshing. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you think I am an out-of-touch old fool? Or does this ring a bell? What do you think? Do I have it right, or am I talking utter nonsense from my tropical perch? More importantly, what do you think is the one thing that could start to stitch things back together? I do have my ideas, but do let me know yours in the comments below. Nevertheless, play nice. Any comments just calling the other side names will be used to line the gecko cage. Take care and goodbye.